Stacy. Bye.
Bye. Hi.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to Lunch and Learn with VCU ACE. We are so glad that you're spending your lunch hour with us. So we're going to get started really in just a couple minutes. So as people are coming in, let's get started with just a housekeeping slide. So for educational and quality control, we will be recording this Zoom session, and it will be located on our VCU ACE website in the archived Lunch and Learns if you'd like to review it again. And by participating, you are consented to be recorded. But before we put anything up, we will edit it to make sure identifying information is removed to protect your privacy. And the question and answer section will also be removed to only an anonymous transcript. So the topic today, and again, we are glad to have you here, is can we be social from 6 feet away? Teaching social skills. The waiting room keeps popping up. Teaching social skills during a socially distanced time. So my name is Lauren Viteri. I work at VCU Autism Center for Excellence. I'm a training and technical assistance associate, and I'm here today with Angelique Weinkoop. Angelique, do you want to say anything?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I can't see you. I'm here as a division specialist in Virginia, and I also thought about it, and I think I would like to share with you that I'm also a parent of school-aged children. So I come with both lenses, both as a person in a school division as well as a parent who's coping with students engaged in remote learning. Okay, so we wanted to start by, I think we got to back up one slide. Thank you, Lauren. We wanted to start by just presenting a framework. The global community has undergone a significant change, and so by acknowledging that, we wanted to start by thinking big picture and thinking about social skills growth in a pandemic, both short-term differences and long-term similarities for growth. And then drill down to more narrow topics of how to teach social skills in this new world we're living in. Thanks. So, there's lots that's changed, and we wanted to start by acknowledging that. And Lauren and I took some time to brainstorm what has changed. Social communication occurs both verbally and non-verbally. Our faces are covered, our words are now muffled, everything feels a little awkward. And this is challenging, and especially early on when normalcy seemed even more elusive, it was almost downright depressing. But we wanted to take a different spin on this and not sort of dwell on the changes and the difficulties that these changes present, and talk about also what hasn't changed in our world. So what hasn't changed? Some things that haven't changed are we still have the same students. These students still have the same complexities of strengths and the same complexities of weaknesses and challenges that they face. We as a division still have the same obligations to FAPE, or free appropriate public education. We still have the same evidence-based practices that we want to somehow use and twist into use in a way that we can use effectively in these scenarios. And what I've noticed too, just as we began the school year, we still have the same caring staff and the same resiliency that is at the core of special education staff and the students that they teach. So both Lauren and I came to the same sort of mindset of thinking about this topic, which is we still want to begin with the end in mind. The long-term goals of the students likely remain unchanged, but how do we continue to target these goals? We may need to think differently, but we are still thinking in terms of where we are headed and planning how to get there from where we are now with the tools that we have. And some of them are the same, but some of them are also different. And what I've learned lately is that everyone's just trying to learn all of these new tools. We're becoming pretty good at it lately too. So as we talk about that, and as we've tried to train our staff at the division level and then into the schools and administrators, everybody working together, the big picture is that goals nowadays are met in one of three instructional environments. We've got a synchronous environment where students are all learning at the same time. It's live. And then we've got an asynchronous environment in which time is less of a factor. It's more flexible. And you lose that in the moment feedback that you would get with synchronous or in-person instruction, but you have more flexibility. And then thirdly, and takes time to sort of understand how to frame it, but we've got unplugged time. And I think we all kind of value our unplugged time. And this time is device free. There's no tether to a computer or a screen. And we have to devise methods by which to meet student goals that are not screen related. So regardless of the method or environment, what remains unchanged here is our free appropriate public education for our students. Students are still learning, still attending school, teachers are still teaching, and one way we've framed it is attendance is task oriented. So we have a task attendance rather than a time attendance. Another thing that we've emphasized is that access remains critical. So you have to think about what families can do to support their children, and also internet access for those asynchronous and synchronous learning opportunities. I've found it useful to consider the three learning environments, synchronous, asynchronous, and unplugged, as a planning backdrop in general, because it also works for the EBP of social communication that Lauren will be talking about more in depth today. So the lessons and methods of instruction, should they be done synchronously? What should be done asynchronously? And what lend themselves best to unplugged learning? These are the kinds of questions we ask with everything as we plan instruction. I thought, you know, as I've done a lot of these Zoom meetings and Google Meets, it's a different world to communicate with adults as well. And more often than not, I'm used to having dialogue and conversation with others. And we've gotten used to sharing information and then having set times for responses. But if you all have had ideas either in your home setting or in school settings that have worked with respect to instruction synchronously, asynchronously, or unplugged, you can share those in the chat box. And I think that might be useful to others in the future. So I think the big message here is just to be intentional about planning for each type, with the learner and the family in mind. So we started school like 8 days ago or something. It hasn't been that much time under our belt with school. And as you go into classrooms, they do look different. And we were very mindful of whether students would be a little anxious or taken aback by the new environment. Everybody's kind of rolled with it. People taking time to make sure there's appropriate distance between learning spaces. In co-taught classrooms, there's a line at the front of the room designating where teachers are teaching from at the front of the room and how far apart they should be. Lots of plexiglass everywhere, separating to keep everyone safe. So as I visit classrooms, it looks like business as usual, except these environmental adjustments have been made. So we have some things that are still the same despite the pandemic environment that we're in. And there's some examples of how schools have adapted and gotten creative to make kids feel comfortable and staff feel comfortable. So on this slide, what I've also noticed is as special educators, we tend to attend to detail, but this attention to detail has to become reframed and amplified. So instead of just walking down the hall and planning with your general ed teacher, or sending a student to go run an errand for you in an intentional way to be able to promote social communication that way, now you've got to do it differently. If they're at home and they're a remote learner, one of our teachers has done an interactive Jamboard, and you see that picture down at the bottom with the dog and the cat. And students get together and they're talking about their favorite pets or their favorite animals, and they're checking the boxes and communicating that way. So just providing opportunities for students to interact with one another. I was thinking this morning too, I was reading an online discussion about parents, and it made me laugh. It's a good way to start the day. Parents who are parents of kindergartners and preschoolers doing Zoom meetings, and these kids have have no limits there. So they're sharing their dogs and their pets, and they're dressed however they want to be dressed. So I think it opens up opportunities for communication as well that you wouldn't normally have in a classroom setting. The other thing that we've noticed is family partnerships are stronger than ever before, because it's really a necessity at this point, right? So you've got to plan for these hidden opportunities for social skills instruction embedded into the lives of families. As a person with a family of my husband and my 2 kids, you run out of time to plan separate instructional time periods for your students or for your children. So instead, we're embedding instructional opportunities within our daily lives that just kind of are just part of what we do. So I was cooking with my child, and we were doing math and, and measuring, and these are offering parents ideas and creative opportunities to embed social skills instruction into their daily lives will, I think, take a little bit of the stress off of them. In the, I think it was last summer, my own daughter engaged with students with high needs disabilities in ESY, or extended school year. So she was in person with them in a classroom, and I began thinking about that and how we can do something just like that, but in this new environment that we're in. So teachers, I think, have a powerful opportunity to connect or be a broker, sort of an in-between person of the families that they're engaged with. If they know of families who are interested in getting students together for play dates or clubs or something like what my daughter did, which just providing as a peer model or a peer buddy within a classroom, they can connect those families, and then those families can then go online and play Would You Rather games or Quarantine Edition, or have play dates and social hours. So I think that just thinking ahead about how you can facilitate less isolation for our students would be a good role to play for teachers. So Lauren and I are also very optimistic people, and we look for these silver linings. Broadly, one of our silver linings is individualization and equity are now in the spotlight, and it's in the spotlight for everyone. As I navigate our new world, these are the themes that have emerged. There's a greater need for individualization and a sort of where everybody's looking at everything through a focus and a lens of equity. The principles of universal design for learning, this was something that I was personally interested in, but very few people kind of knew about it outside of my circle of special ed. Now I feel like it's everywhere. So this just means multiple means of engagement, representation, and action and expression is vital for a wider swath of learners now. Everybody needs universal design. There is an expectation now for social emotional learning to be a priority for students. This may offer opportunities to engage in inclusive environments, either virtually or in the same physical learning space. So I think it's interesting that a pandemic has created, what is definitely hardships in terms of social emotional skills for everybody, but that has in some ways even the playing field so that everybody needs these same things and could create opportunities for more inclusive settings remotely or in the same physical space.
Thank you so much, Angelique. So now that we've discussed the framework about social skills, part 2 is talking about tips and how to teach these skills. So let's take a look. So no significant learning occurs without a significant relationship. Relationships matter. We know this. We've always known it, and it's even more important to think about this now. And it's important to not only maintain relationships, but build these positive relationships as well. And social skills instruction becomes much more effective when we have that rapport and that positive relationship, because people want to do activities with individuals and activities that they like to do. So we have 5 tips today. Hopefully we have a lot of resources for you guys, ways to provide social skills instruction across the asynchronous, synchronous, and unplugged settings. The first one is to promote a positive relationship with people. And whether you're a parent, whether you're a teacher, a related service provider, positive environments are important. And distance learning can, in fact, be distant. And we want to avoid that chilly instructional climate, that just computer screen to computer screen. And we want to find ways to make social skills exciting and fun and interactive. And we want to interact with the person behind the screen, not just that glass of the phone or the screen of the computer. So here are some ways to do that. So promoting that positive relationship, really getting effective instruction. And we're going to talk about methods later in the tips, but Angelique and I felt that that relationship and rapport is so important. It was worth saying first. So personalize your learning environment, make it comfortable, make it accessible to social skills. If it's in person and at home, have 2 chairs naturally face each other. It just makes that conversation happen a little bit easier. Or personalize your learning environment on the computer screen. Put a picture of your favorite activity or a picture of your family. Have that common space where everyone knows that social skills instruction is going to be done here, similar to what we do in a school. We always have social skills in the same classroom, sometimes in the same space, and it's common, it's predictable, it will decrease that anxiety. Also have a landing page. I love that term, because that landing page means without fail, here's where social skills resources are, here's where social skills instruction is going to take place, and it becomes your own. It becomes the students or the individuals. It takes the shape of all who are involved. And teachers, add components to the lesson that focus on all students and their unique contributions. Diversity is so important. It makes social skills practical. It makes social skills relevant. So use those unique contributions. And also focus on the individual's interests and strengths. Everyone likes to talk about things that they like to do or that are important to them. Angelique and I can probably spend about 5 hours talking about visual supports or evidence-based practice. If you want to initiate conversation, ask us about that. So we really want to focus on those interests, because that's what really gets that conversation started. It increases that motivation to have that social skills lesson, and it increases that social opportunity as well, because people want to get involved. So here's an example of a landing page and this common space. So this is done with a Bitmoji classroom. So it's pretty approachable. It looks like we're going to teach social skills. There's a couch there. it's setting up the space to engage in social skills instruction. So there's consistency within the classroom, but the bulletin board changes. So predictability with the changes of instruction, and have a little hidden features and fun too. So the bulletin board, so for this social skills instruction, it looks like these two students, they're going to talk about hygiene. So personal hygiene, wearing your mask, how to wash your hands, why we don't want to touch our face. That's on that green board. And then what you could even do for fun is have discussion about what else can you see? There's a POW. I wonder what that could be. And maybe ask these WH questions, or what about the books? Is there going to be a new activity on the books? So having that interactive piece is important as well. So here's another strategy. It's called a 2x5 strategy. It's spend 2 minutes a day for 10 minutes connecting with the child about his or her interests. This is embedded social skills at its finest. Oftentimes we are running around our day, especially now, we're trying to balance and juggle everything. Sometimes having a social skills block is really hard to do in your life. So having this 2x10, 2 minutes to talk about interests, that could look like adding a visual or drawing, or having that conversation and that dialogue. That's going to promote those natural opportunities to discuss social skills. And sometimes it's just thinking about it just a little bit each day to really strengthen them. And by doing this 2x10, it builds positive relationships as well as the social skills at the same time. So you're really looking for the most bang for your buck right now. So here's an example of designing your own virtual locker. So if you go to this website, you can get this background. And this is a way to incorporate students' unique interests and needs. And here's a locker, and they're going to decorate their locker. So it's similar and can be transferred to the school. So, hey, we're doing this now digitally. When you get to school, you can add some of these. You can prep. You're preparing for when you return to school. You can carry this over. So some things to consider, maybe a picture of your family or friends or pets. Maybe you put your favorite movie poster in there. Maybe you put a link to your favorite music and a favorite music song. What about a hobby that you like to do, or what you cook with your family on Fridays? So, you know, it opens it up to whatever you guys choose to do, but it's a nice starting point and a launch pad for discussion. And then maybe as the instructor or the parent, you can take a step back and really let the kids talk about what they see and talk about what they share. So tip number two, choose skills deliberately. There are so many social skills to focus on for all of us. We continually have to work on social skills so we don't get rusty at them, but we want to take them 1 or 2 at a time. There's always that phrase, too many, maybe too much. And then what's going to happen is your social skills instruction is going to become diluted if you're choosing 10 social, skills to focus on. Pick 1 or 2, really focus on them, and think about choosing skills that are essential for now. So before, was it February or January? Some behaviors that we thought were, hey, not the best, but weren't a priority, were something like touching everything at Target, hands all over Target, or maybe even picking their nose. Something there that may have seemed uncomfortable, or maybe, for lack of a better word, annoying behavior, is now a safety concern. Is now touching everything at the grocery store, licking the grocery cart, is now a safety concern. That maybe has moved up a little bit. So you want to prioritize and see what skills should we focus on now. And make sure that they're developmentally appropriate and they're based on the individual's ability level. So if someone is unable to attend class virtually or on the computer screen for 5 minutes, it's probably unlikely that they're going to be able to attend a virtual class for 4 hours. So we really want to make sure that we're relating the skills to their skill level and they're developmentally appropriate. So this is by far, and I've already given you a clue, but this is by far my favorite tip, using visual supports. And especially with social skills, visuals can make abstract concepts a little bit more concrete. Social interactions can be very complex and ever-changing. Social skills is a beast of its own, right? And especially emotions. So my mad may look very different than Angelique's mad. My sad may look like hysterical tears, while Angelique, maybe her head's down. She puts her head down and shuts off. So add a visual to really make these really big abstract concepts, like something like emotion and mad and sad, really manageable, and do that with a visual. And the nice thing about visual supports is they can be adapted to the different environments. You can use them digitally. There's digital token boards, there's digital schedules and choice boards. And you can carry those over, you can print them out to that unplugged or that live. They are really able to be used. You don't have to reinvent the wheel if you change environments. So here's an example of just a very simplistic, our masks are on. So maybe this is something that you show right when you get out of the car and you're heading into Target. Maybe this is what you see in the classroom. So you're actually modeling how to put that mask on. So the mask isn't hanging off your ear. It's not, flinging around, throwing it